Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And it's time for our Play Up Props, our favorite video of each and every weekday. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Got a couple other game videos up for you today on a pretty nice 10-game slate here in the NBA on Wednesday night. Also want you to head to thelines.com. Nate's got player props up there each and every weekday for you guys, and our great written content from the gang over at thelines.com. Also have our great odds finder tool there where you can go ahead and shop lines across the U.S. sportsbooks to the best of your ability, including these NBA player props. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into your first prop for tonight.
Yeah, I went 2-0 last night. Josh went 0-2, unfortunately, because the Kings just destroyed the hapless Nets. Shout out Ben Simmons getting his first double-digit anything of the season in a 32-point loss. But man doesn't need to catch any more strays. Let's get into our props today. Kristaps Porzingis, I'm taking over 20.5 points. Bradley Beal might actually be back tonight. I mean, he's been out with a non-COVID illness or in protocol. Either way, he sat out a game for conditioning on Sunday, so he might be back. And, I mean, that might seem like a problem for Porzingis, but I still really like this matchup against OKC. In his last three, the Zinger, 25 points per game, 8 rebounds per game on 29% usage, which is where he's at when Beal's out. Now, his usage dropped down to 25% with Beal in, but I don't expect Bradley Beal. I mean, we've talked about it before, how he's just, kind of passive since he got that Supermax. I don't expect him to just be like, my team, give me the damn ball. And it's going to be a tougher matchup for him against Shai Gilgeous and that Thunder backcourt, and the Thunder interior offer very little resistance. They're giving up the second most rebounds per game overall, second most to power forwards, fifth most to centers. So I like getting the points and rebounds together at 29.5 for the Zinger. He's minus 160 to hit 2 threes. He's shooting 46% from three over his last 4 here, so understandable there. But I think he'll get it going inside and out. He's on a nice little run here, and should have no problem scoring on OKC.
Yeah, I think Poku might be out. Is that what you're basing this pick on? Just kidding. Either way, yeah. Did you clarify that the Zinger is Kristaps Porzingis? I just want to make sure people know our slang here. But yeah, Kristaps there. And yeah, I don't see too many injuries for the Thunder, but either way, that team is definitely more of a turnstile down low than anywhere else for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and go under here, Nate. It's going to be an under kind of day for your boy. Starting with Trae Young, we have a video up about that Boston-Atlanta game. We like under. I don't know. That total is wildly high, right? It's like 235.5 right now. So that might make you think points, but we like under. 27.5 points for Trae is minus 125 on DK. So obviously seems like they think that's the more likely bet to hit, as they're giving you worse odds there on the under for his 27.5 points. Look, Boston has not been the same juggernaut on defense. They've been the best offensive team in the league. They just have not been the same defensive team that we expect from them in the way that they really kind of built their success last season. They're just wildly efficient on offense now. But on defense, they do limit assists, and they do play well against Trae. And Trae's last 4 versus Boston, at home specifically, 26 points, 4 boards, 7 assists a game in 34 minutes a game. 34 minutes a game with a 38% usage rate. That's Luka Doncic and nobody else, right? Like nobody gets a 38% usage rate, especially over 4 games in a row. So he's doing everything for them and still in a ton of time and still getting that stat line at a combined, 33 points and assists a game, which right now for him is just not, it's too low. But his assist prop is only at 7.5 on DraftKings. That's at minus 165. But it does tell you they're not willing to really go too high for Trae on these assists if you're paying close attention to how good Boston is, which is third best at limiting their opponents in terms of getting assists, second best at limiting point guards and getting assists, also 12th or 13th in terms of limiting opponent point guard points per game as well, and rebounds. But I'm sticking with the points. I don't really want to start getting into the assists. I still think he could get a decent amount, and it does scare me a little bit to have to bank on Trae getting less than 10 assists in a game, even though I understand that's not what he does against, that is what he does, is get less than that against these Celtics. But But, we talk about Trae being a villain and loving that villain role on the road. At home, it's not quite the same. 24 in his last 10 at home, dating back to a couple of games last season, 24 points a game, 3 boards, 10 assists. So that still doesn't get you, obviously, the 27.5 points. That's really what I'm focused on. Even those games where he was in the last 10 at home, only 2 of those games were against a top 10 defense in Miami. The other 8 games were against teams like Charlotte twice, New Orleans, Washington, the Rockets, and the Philadelphia 76ers, who were not good on defense as well when they played them earlier. So I feel pretty good about Trae being held in check a bit more at home. I feel good about that game going under, and I'm just going to stick to the points because I do think there's always the possibility that if, the 3-point shooting for Atlanta wakes up, which it's been completely asleep, but if it wakes up in any way tonight, we see a barrage, the assist could be there for him, but I just don't feel that way about the points.
Yeah, I mean, last 7 for Trae, it's gotten cold, man. 23 points per game, 35, 28 splits. I don't really see him lighting up the Celtics with Smart and Derek White hounding him all night. Derek White, the best get through screens guy in the world, whatever that stat is. Maybe the best charge taking guy. The best things that don't show up in the box score. He's a great defender though, and they've guarded Trae well. I think the overall PRA is what I would go under because he's not much of a rebounder for sure. He's averaging 2.5 boards his last 7 there. So 39.5 at FanDuel, go under that. I mean, then you're getting the points plus less than 13 peripherals, right? Which I don't think he's getting 11 or 12 dimes against the Celtics defense. So I like that pick. My under is going to be Terry Rozier with the Hornets hosting the Pacers here. I mean, the Hornets, first of all, are not good. They're 29th in offensive efficiency at home. So I don't think you expect them to light up the Pacers, even though the Pacers have a very poor defensive rating on the road. But they figured out some things, at least scheme-wise, in their 4-game homestand, put together a very respectable 109 defensive rating. And they've guarded point guards pretty well. Top 10 in terms of points allowed. I don't know if Terry is technically the point guard anymore because LaMelo Ball is back. But to me, that means a significant drop in usage. As you saw, last game without LaMelo, 29% usage. First game with him, 26. Now we're down to 22 in Terry's last game in his career or in the last 2 seasons since LaMelo, it became his team. His assists dropped from nearly 6 to 4 per game with LaMelo. His points dropped from 20.5 to 19.5. The minutes even dropped to 34 per game. I think the minutes will be there, but I don't think he's going to have much success against Indy unless he's hitting from 3. They're 30th in 3-point percentage allowed, but 8th in 2, and allowing the third fewest paint points. And Rozier's fresh off a 1 for 8 shooting night from 3. He only shoots 32% from 3 at home. And he's only averaging 21.3 at home, despite a 30% usage rate, which, like I said, is dropping with LaMelo. So his prop is 21.5. That's what I'm saying. I don't see him necessarily getting his average now that LaMelo's out there, and I like combining it with the assists at 26.5 because he's not going to get as many playmaking opportunities.
100%. Yeah, the assists definitely. I'm happy to put those in there as well. He's just struggled shooting the ball this season just so tremendously, man. I mean, and that's because he's just taking it on and going, oh, sick, no LaMelo, no Gordon Hayward, no Miles Bridges. Guess it's scary Terry time, right? And that's led to what's his field goal percentage right now over on the season? 38% from the field, 8 for 21 at 21 shots a game. It's like, Terry, maybe start dishing a little bit more, but he's just not even gonna have the opportunity to get that many shots up in this game if LaMelo's gonna have the ball in his hands that much and really running as fast as he can, trying to keep that tempo up. And if Indy's playing a little bit better on defense, like you say, I'm surprised by all these stats that you're showing with Indy's D. As I was ready to just be like one of the worst defensive teams in the league. I'm scared of an under, but everything you're saying makes complete sense, especially that usage rate that continues to drop for Mr. Rozier. So.
And Miles Turner's playing now, so they're protecting
that makes
the
sense,
paint,
right?
yeah.
The man who blocks more shots than anyone in the last 2 or 3 seasons. So that makes plenty of sense. Or second behind only Rudy. But speaking of Rudy, I'm not taking him in this one, but I am going to reference him a number of times as I talk about Karl-Anthony Towns' under in a game against the Orlando Magic. The Magic they're playing in Orlando, where the Magic are 4-4 on the season, and actually a pretty good team coming off a win not that long ago when they did have. Actually, I don't believe they even had Paolo in their win against at home against the Mavs. But 34.5 PRA for Cat, -120 on DK. I didn't check FanDuel, but it's usually about the same, if not a little bit more on FanDuel, with probably slightly worse odds to go unders is often what I see. But Cat and Gobert on the floor, as I mentioned, I was going to reference Mr. Gobert here. 262 minutes that they played this season together with a -5 net rating and a 104 offensive rating. That's bad, and that's the team when they're on the floor. The spacing has not been figured out. It's been talked about ad nauseum. The one time that he played without Rudy, 25 points, 11 boards, and 7 assists, or excuse me, twice that he's played without Rudy. That's what he's averaging this year is Karl Towns. But Orlando stifles bigs. That's what they do. They start 8 7-footers. They have 8 7-footers in their rotation. They play at the 9th slowest pace at home. They're second in limiting their their opposition's rebounding, which is huge for Cat and Gobert. They're a little bit better. They're really good on defense against both power forwards and centers, but a little bit better against power forwards. And I think that's often because power forwards in today's NBA, a la Cat, don't know what to do when they have a real center down low like Rudy Gobert, who can't do anything outside of 15 feet from the basket. So and makes him completely useless. So but versus power forwards, top 5 in limiting points, rebounds, and assists. So I'm going to put it all out there for Cat. I think he's averaging about what his PRA is at, and that's not considering that he's playing on the road where they're slightly worse, and against an Orlando team at home that has just been eating up bigs this season. And I know that's a reason you might consider maybe like a D'Lo over or a guard over or something like that for Minnesota. But I feel very comfortable about an under for the bigs and specifically Cat in this situation.
Yeah, I don't see this game the same way. I mean, first of all, Wendell Carter is questionable. Very underrated player for Orlando if he's out. If Orlando's playing this many bigs, I think it's actually the one instance where Cat and Rudy will both be comfortable out there. And I think it kind of leans towards more rebounds. Orlando gives up a ton of rebounds because they're not very good offensively. So I'd be nervous about this under PRA. Also, the Wolves, it seemed like, finally did figure some things out, right? They got 129 against the Cavs, that playing the way they did last year, which is like 250 totals, giving up 50 to DG, but still outgunning them in hitting, shooting 50% from 3 as a team. That's why I was going to look at D'Angelo Russell, who had 30 and 11 in that game. I like his PRA. It's lower than Cat at 25.5 because Orlando's, they're so big that a good pick and roll point guard should be able to just kind of carve them up. If he continues that usage and if Anthony Edwards continues to look sluggish like he has so far this season, I like D'Lo. That's my take on this one. I'm just going to keep waiting and seeing on whether Towns and Gobert can actually play together, but I don't think this is the matchup to attack him necessarily.
Well, let me just disagree slightly with you. Disagree with me only to say their pace at home, Minnesota, is 104.5 this season. Their pace on the road's 98.5. Last season was a similar concept where at home, best offensive team in the league, playing at the fastest pace in the league. On the road, awful offensive team playing at a much slower pace. So it's a similar concept here where at home they seem to play a lot faster. I'm going to go ahead and pick this game as getting ahead of what I think is going to be overinflated. I think that the trend is going to continue of road offensive woes for Minnesota and that slow pace. But that's what I'm banking on tonight. It is our 4th pick. We feel really, really good about the other 3. I like this one. There's a little bit of dissent, but that makes for a little bit better podcast, Nate. So we'll continue to be bringing you guys these each and every weekday. Make sure to follow along, like, and subscribe to that page. We'll be coming back to you guys tomorrow. So until we see you next, happy betting.